Is there a decision that you think did not make sense at all when you made it?
So everybody looks at the flashy side of success, but the reality is that it's very few people who make it there.
About 80% of startups don't make it past the first 5 years.
Getting your first 1,000 customers if you're in the consumer business is very easy. But how do you scale from your first 1,000 customers to your first 10,000 customers? That's a different game. So a lot of the companies that end up hitting IPO have solved different problems at different stages, and then they have managed to get to the point where they are.
What has been a failure that you're secretly grateful for?
Good question.
When was the last time when you completely switched off? No screens, no emails, no phones?
It's never happened. One of my former bosses we had this joke going on, Baba rail me, Baba jail me, right?
Entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. When is the time that you felt this the most?
It's not a lonely journey if you have a great co-founder, right? So find a co-founder with whom you want to build. Will AI take over the world? Might happen, may not happen. But then just because that's going to happen, you can't stop progress from happening.
Some people build companies. There are some others who build movements. With me here today on Real Versus with Saugat is someone I have known and admired for a long time. That was, I think, one of the most fascinating conversations I have had in a long time, and with someone who I have known for a while. That was Rahul with me, and I think we talked about how entrepreneurs can look at lives, look at scaling ventures, in terms of their mindset, in terms of how they think, how they look at problem solving, how they look at first principles thinking. I think it's been a great lesson in terms of this conversation is an eye opener for me personally in terms of looking at how you can stay balanced, how you can look at your work as well as your life, and how you can create what Rahul calls work-life harmony. I really hope that startup founders at any stage, or in fact early stages, and can take some things away from this conversation. And I really hope that those young potential founders out there who are budding and who are possibly raring to go can actually learn a lot of things from someone who's spent the last 20 years building businesses. Let's welcome Rahul Maroli, founder and CEO of Tap Health, a voice-first AI-based platform that helps people manage their health. It is something which I feel is an extremely important step in a country where healthcare is still not very democratized. I couldn't be more excited about this conversation. So welcome, Rahul. Thank you so much for taking time out and being here with me today. It's and we're meeting after a very very long time, but it's great to have you. I think to begin with, I must it's just a very personally curious question. You were with Ola earlier, is when I think we met, and then eventually moved to Z5.
Right.
From a very senior executive, comfortable position, I'm sure. Why the move into the gritty, fairly tough world of starting your own venture, that to a tech-driven healthcare startup, right? So why that change?
First and foremost thing, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me here. It's been years since we have caught up.
Yes.
So nice to see you. I don't think we have caught up since about 2017, 18.
17, 18, yes.
That's right. It's absolutely great seeing you here.
Same here, Rahul.
So being an entrepreneur is I normally tell people there are two kinds of people. There are entrepreneurs and non-entrepreneurs, right? And within entrepreneurs, there are again two kinds of people. One that wants to take the risk and is willing to take the plunge, and the ones that who keep waiting that when should I take the plunge, right?
Right.
So I was in the second category. Right?
Right.
So I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I always wanted to build something, right? But then you get into your comfort zone. You have a nice paycheck coming in, you take on liabilities, and you reach a point wherein you feel that whatever I'm doing, I'm very happy about it, right? And whatever struggles that I would end up having by being an entrepreneur, why should I take those struggles? I'm actually happy with what I'm currently doing, right? But beyond a point, you then decide to break out of your shackles, and then you decide to, I want to take the plunge now because I've reasonably secured myself and I want to take the plunge, right? I normally tell people that there are two phases in which you can actually become operating entrepreneur, or you jump in and you start building stuff. One is when you don't have anything to lose, which
Right.
means that straight out of college, right? You think that I want to start building stuff, and I want to build something great. Doesn't matter if I end up losing 2 years of my life, so you don't have anything to lose, right? And the second phase is when you're reasonably secured in your life and you are now willing to take the risk, right? So those are two ideal phases, right?
Right.
It's a middle phase which is very dangerous for people. You just got married, got a kid has just gone to school, right? You picked up some liabilities, and now thinking that should I really become an entrepreneur, right? So either start off very late in your very early, or then start a bit later.
Right. Right. So is that, I mean, was that always the plan?
I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but then when you see opportunities, when you decide to step out, you start relooking at life, and that's the time that you feel that now is the time for me to do something of my own, right? And I was always passionate about building something in technology, trying to build a business that can scale globally, trying to build a business that I call it as internet scale businesses.
Right.
That's what I wanted to build, and that's what we're trying to build right now at Tap Health.
Great. Great. Wonderful. So, Rahul, maybe, just in a slightly different vein, looking back, is there a decision that you think did not make sense at all when you made it? Or now looking back, something that you think about actually made a lot of sense and, something that you're grateful for or something that didn't?
So most people don't understand that being an entrepreneur. See, everybody goes with the flamboyancy of being an entrepreneur, right? And then X company has raised a $5 million worth of rounds, right? And how many unicorns are being produced in the country? So everybody looks at the flashy side of success of being an entrepreneur, right? Or starting up, right? But the reality is that it's very few people who make it there, and even people who make it there, they made there after about 10 years, right?
Right.
It's taken them a lot of time to get there, right? And on top of it, they are still struggling, and then there every day is literally a struggle for you to go back and deliver on your results, make sure that the business is growing. It's a struggle, right? So people are enamored by the glorification of startups. Until you're in there, you do not know how difficult or easy it is, right? And every day you have this moment where you start thinking that why am I doing this, right? Why am I even got into this, right? I should have continued doing what I was doing earlier, uh, working, trying to deliver on results, be a corporate entrepreneur. You can still do well,
Right.
but there is joy of building and innovating, and that's what I'm trying to pursue right now.
Rahul, I think a little more on this. There is this entire aura, or maybe like a fad around startups, right? Every second person wants to become a startup founder.
Correct.
Everybody wants to be a founder. How much of do you think there is actually a lot of substance to what a lot of people are doing out there, or do you think there is also some bit of glamour that pulls people in, but soon they
Sure.
they realize that, oh, you know what,
Sure.
this isn't what I signed up for,
Sure.
right?
So, fundamentally, building a startup takes you about 10 years, right? It'll take you at least about 7 to 10 years, right? And I meet a lot of people who are 25, 26, and they end up telling me, this is my third startup, right? If you have not, then how can it be a third startup, right? And you
True,
can't,
true,
you
absolutely.
started off with something, decided to give up in between, then started off something else, and then now you're doing something else, right? That's not a startup, right?
True.
Startup, you end up seeing the complete cycle of it, right? You start off with something, you end up, you start off with a vision, and with a thesis around it. Then you start executing on it, you get some feedback around it, and then you go back and change it. You find customers for whatever changes that are made to your product, and then you finally find a market in which you really want to sell, right? And then you keep expanding. You move to further. Either you expand in terms of your product portfolio, or you look at expanding in terms of the markets that you're trying to operate on, or the structure in which you're trying to deliver those products to those respective markets. That entire journey is a very long journey. You can't make decisions in terms of my startup is working or not working in a few months or even in a few years.
Right, right.
The reality is that most startups trying to get seed funded, trying to do pre-seed or seed is very easy. But very few startups, barely but 5% of startups make it through and go out and raise a Series A. Right? That's a crucial point, right? Because at Series A, you have found just before Series A, you would have found some sort of a product market fit.
Right.
Right. So building the product is what you end up doing in your seed, pre-seed and seed stages. By the time you hit Series A, you've actually found a product market fit, right? And most products and most founders don't end up doing that,
Right.
right? And that's where I also keep telling a lot of people who come to me for advice. I keep telling them that you need to look when you're building something, you need to get to the depth of building, right? You
True.
need to have literally answers to every possible situation. You at least should have conceptualized every possible situation. You can jump in, then you can definitely jump in into. You don't need to have answers to everything, but you should have mentally thought through a lot of situations and found
A lot of scenarios
and seen that
yes.
yes, I don't have answers to this, but I've thought through this.
Right. Right.
Right? There are a lot of unknowns, which is fine, right? But then certain common questions you should have thought through those, right? It's okay not to have answers to those,
True.
right? But you
True.
at least need to know what are those questions.
The questions are important. The
Correct.
why is important.
Absolutely. You need to
I
be clear
agree.
on the
I agree.
questions. You may not have the answers, right? Unless you go out and execute, right? I was telling this to, we are trying to find a new marketing partner.
Right.
And I was listening to pitches from marketing agencies, and everyone would come up and tell us that, hey, you need to be positioning your product like this, right? This is the kind of positioning that you should be having for your product, right? My only answer to them was that, look, I've spoken to hundreds of customers. I do not know what is the kind of positioning we should be doing, right? Because I want to experiment with maybe about 10, 15 different forms of positioning. And my customers will tell me what is the positioning that they like, right? Because based upon whatever is the positioning, what is the positioning of those 10, 15 ones, which is really getting me results, is going to be my positioning, right?
True.
I'm not,
True.
no product is ever, it's not possible for every product to sell to every customer that exists in the market for a particular need, right? Ultimately, it is what's going to happen is that a particular set of customers is going to be buying your product. A particular set of customers will buy somebody else's product, right?
Right.
Look at cosmetics, right? There are very high end cosmetics. There are extremely low end cosmetics. There's the medium market for cosmetics. There are somebody would call it as completely chemical free. Somebody will call it as completely natural. Someone just didn't talk about the entire background. There are different types of products available, which ends up catering to different types of markets. Price is not the only positioning, right? You can have a highly scientific formulation, which is not natural, but it could be ridiculously expensive, but very effective, very scientific in terms of a cosmetic formulation, right? So there are different products, different markets, different set of consumers.
True, true. Rahul, I think that reminds me of one more thing. I think I have also been involved with a few startups, high growth startups, and possibly the time when I associated with them was possibly the phase when they were growing very fast.
Right.
I think one of the observations, and I could be wrong, but I would like to hear your side on it. Is I think a lot of people are able to figure out the 0 to 1, the
Correct.
1 to 10, and the 10 to 100 journey. So that's maybe typically about a Series B, Series C. After which is where I see a lot of startups struggling to really know and decide what it wants to do next, right?
Yeah.
So the 1001 journey, or thereafter, is where you found a certain scale, right? So I think every startup worth its salt in the market initially tries to position itself with the right product market fit, as you rightly said. Then we are talking about gaining customers, or kind of building that customer base.
Yeah.
You have your the product has been tested, all the bugs have been taken care of and mitigated, and then you want to know about what's the next strategy that's going to take us to the next level. And I think that's where you were talking about. Correct. Because about 80% of startups don't make it past the first 5 years.
No, it's I think 95% of them do not end up raising a seed round.
Right.
Right. I think the larger point there is that you get early success, right? When you start off, a lot of entrepreneurs start building products based upon a thesis or some bit of research that they have. These are problems that they've heard of. These are problems that they have felt themselves. They've experienced it themselves. or these could be problems that they're actually seeing, right? Or it's very so you come with the problem, you build a solution around that. You go to the market, you will find buyers. There are buyers for all kinds of products, right? You start finding buyers. You start tending to think that the market is great. I'm going to start executing on this market. You get some bit of success. You iterate, right, and then you reach a point. You reach that in about a year. You'll end up getting in some more success, and then you start stagnating. Right?
Exactly.
So to me, that is like the 0 to 10 journey, right? 0 to 10 journey is very easy.
Right.
Trying to get your initial POCs, initial customer set is very easy, right? And that's what gives kick to people, right? Now that's not a linear curve, right? So people normally end up thinking that I pick up my whatever happened in my 0 to 10 journey is I'm just going to put a 10% growth rate per month on that, and I'm just going to draw a line, right? It doesn't work. Getting your first 1,000 customers, if you're in the consumer business, is very easy, right? And then you spend money on the internet. Well, you spend money on any of the internet platforms, you will get your first 1,000 customers. It is very easy to get that, right? But how do you scale from your first 1,000 customers to your first 10,000 customers? That's a different game, right? How do you scale from your 10,000 customers to the next 100,000 customers? To That's going to be completely different, right? So a lot of the companies that end up hitting venture scale and hitting IPO have solved different problems at different stages, right? And then they have managed to get to the point where they are. So that to me is, as a entrepreneur, you are constantly hustling. There is nothing called as, hey, I've done a great job in terms of my first 1,000 customers. It's going to be the same smooth sale, the same communication will work, the same distribution channels will work, the same markets will work. I know my customers very well. It doesn't work that way, right? Because at the next level, when you start pushing yourself with you're widening the market and trying to get to the next set of customers, your problems are completely different. You have to remain very close to your customers, keep talking to them, keep listening to them, and they will keep giving you feedback in terms of how do you iterate. And it's not just with consumer products or with business products, it's possibly with every possible product. And most people end up reading books, right? Stories of how Netflix got built, right?
I know.
So these are fait accompli stories. The narratives were built after Netflix became successful,
True.
right? It's not a no found or how Uber got built, right?
Right.
Then these are fait accompli stories, right? Every entrepreneur likes to read very nice narratives and stories in terms of what was the genesis of the idea. One fine day I was sitting out there and I found this idea and this is how I built it. Nobody talks about the real struggle that companies have gone through, right, or startups have gone through.
No, I think people love to read about or get motivated with rags to riches stories, right?
Correct. So that's what sells, right? It's the
Exactly.
typical.
Exactly.
It's I spent some time with Z5. There are 7 or 8 different types of stories, right, on which movies are made. And one of the stories is is the journey of the hero. Well, I don't know what's it called, right? But yeah, I think it's the journey of the hero or something like that, right? Or a hero's journey, something like that, right? Where you start off with this was X. Starts off from a very meager life. He's faced with his life is going on fine. He's faced with a challenge. He gets demotivated with the challenge. Then he picks it up. He gets motivated. He starts working very hard. He then finally solves that challenge, right? Wins over that girl, and then he gets married and lives happily ever after, right? That's the typical stories that that most movies are made, or one of the types of movies, right? So everybody loves stories. They believe in stories, and they believe a lot in the fait accompli stories, and then or narratives that have been built after something has happened,
True.
and you
True.
tend to believe that.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Rahul. You couldn't have said it better. Great. Amazing. Rahul, maybe just a little bit more on it because I'm personally very invested, curious now. All these stories that we read, right? And I love reading stories. Are these all of these stories true? I mean, since you've been with Z5, you've been with the media house, one of the leading ones in India at that. How, I remember that the reason why this question comes to mind is a fairly old James Bond movie, right? Which had which had this narrative where a media baron, kind of controls the entire information flow in the world. And he says that whoever controls the information owns the world, which I now believe is true, because whatever we are fed is what
Sure.
we live with, right? So these stories that we read, I'm sure that again, uh, I mean, there is some bit of dramatization, and just to make it feel look.
No, I think media owners, at the beat Google or Facebook or television as a media, they're not looking at controlling societies, right? Uh, they are nothing but businessmen who are trying to run a platform, right? People think that Facebook controls the world. Facebook doesn't control the world. There are people like you and I who end up putting content. Somebody might end up manipulating that content. That's where scandals like Cambridge Analytica actually came up, right? You might end up using Facebook as a medium to rig elections, right, and influence people's decisions. It's not platforms that end up controlling. Yes, the platforms have got. What is the only objective that the platform has? The platform's only objective is how do I? I'm a media company. My primary revenue is nothing but advertisements, right? I want more and more people to use my platform, and I want more and more advertisers to come on board, and I want to have a much better ability to target you,
Right,
right?
right.
Their only objective of listening to you, even if they're listening, is nothing but to understand you better, so that they can serve you much better ads. That if they're listening to you, they know what you like, what you not like, right? What are you in the market for, right? They can sell. They can go back and electronically communicate that information to potential brand owners or advertisers, and those advertisers can come back and target you, right? So that's the simplicity of the business, right? To me, I would firmly want to believe that that's what every media company wants to do, right? Then you come back and there is nobody evil out there, right? They are in for profit maximization, and that's what we want to do. True.
Absolutely. Okay. All right. I think maybe let's just take a little bit of take a step back. If your younger self met you today,
Right.
would he be happy, confused, disappointed? What
I think if my younger self met me, I would have told him that start a bit early, right? You can, if you really want to build a very large, if you really want to build a startup, do something great. And if you're keen on taking the risk, start a bit early, right? And that's what I would normally tell. Then if there's one message that I want to give my younger self or my is exactly that.
So when you say start early, do you think it makes more sense for somebody who nurtures entrepreneurial aspirations to maybe be an early starter as compared to
No,
or
entrepreneurship
there
is
is
a
no.
very long journey. It's not a. It takes a lot of energy, right? It takes a lot of grit, and it's going to take you a lot of time. If you have all of that, then you should become an entrepreneur, right? It's not overnight success. You not find success, as we spoke about it earlier. Right? You won't find success in let's imagine in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, right? It's a long journey. You have to be prepared for it. And when you're younger, you have a much better. You're far more resilient. Your ability to withstand stress is significantly higher. You don't have to lose anything. For example, if somebody were to be, I can't go out and at my career stage, I can't go out and build let's imagine a small boutique business, right? People's aspirations or people's expectations from me is that I'm going to build a significantly large business, right? What is
Right.
that large? It's out for the taking, but then that's how people would look at it, right? If I'm doing something, it needs to be large, right? So a younger me wouldn't have had the same amount of stress. I'm not living up to people don't have people have not put a benchmark number at that this is what I expect out of you.
So is that a factor that influences your decisions as somebody who's trying to build something? In terms of the stage of the journey that you're in right now, as you said, Rahul,
So you need to
the expectations, do they really come into picture or come into play when you are
Everything, the human mind is such that everything that you end up listening to affects you,
right?
right? There are, you might want to say that, look, it doesn't affect me, and I'm going to stay completely off negative thoughts around it, and I'm going to do what I'm supposed to do, right? People will tell you, give you advices like, you need to enjoy what you're doing, right? Don't get the negativity. It's not that easy to do that,
True.
right? And it's a common exercise that if I were to be telling you not to think about something, you'll actually keep thinking about it.
Right.
People who have managed to do that are the ones who are very successful, right? Trying to keep the negativity out, trying to not think about what others are talking about me or commenting about me, what are others' expectations from me. If you're able to do that, then you are able to build and execute in terms of what is the vision that you have. But that's not an easy job.
I know. I
Yeah.
can completely relate with that. So, Rahul, which one is there, like the worst advice that you've ever received, or what would you say is the worst advice you've ever received in life? And how did following it or not following it?
So advices are dime a dozen, right? Most people who have not been operators, they have not operated, they have not run, uh, they've not been founders or operators in a particular sector. They will give you advice, right? As a founder, it is completely up to you to listen to what is the advice that I want to take and what is the advice that I don't want to take, right? Because ultimately, you're the one who's executing, you're the one who's taking decisions, you're the one who's taking these micro decisions at any point in time, right? It is completely up to you. So there is nothing called the right advice or a wrong advice, right? As in, you just throw a stone, you'll find some 10. As in, everybody wants to give you an advice.
Absolutely.
So every
Absolutely.
advice is a right advice. It is that person's perspective of the world and perspective of your situation. But it is up to you because ultimately you're the one who's
Who's
taking
in
the
the
decision,
yes?
right? That's what you need to be deciding.
So, I mean, I think as an individual, Rahul, how easy or let's just say how easy or difficult is it to make certain decisions which you know have possible uh, large scale or long term outcomes as an entrepreneur? I- are these shaped by the person you are in terms of, I mean, the ability to take those decisions? Do they normally, now again, would it have been easier to make those decisions had it been the younger Rahul, or is it now better because now you have the experience?
So I think gray hair definitely helps you, right? You take smarter decisions. But having said that, gray hair has also got its own challenges in terms that you're biased by the way you want to look at
Right,
a particular
right,
situation. Right? Every decision that you take the best possible decision based upon whatever information that you have at that point in time,
right.
right? uh, the arbitrage of information, which means that you will, given, if you have more time, you will have more information,
True.
right? If you have more information, you will always take the best possible decision based upon whatever information that you have and whatever information you can process,
Right,
right?
right.
You can have all the information, but you might decide not to process a lot of it. And it again depends upon what is the information that you're looking at, right?
True.
I'm sure a lot of you and the viewers would have heard of this story about there was like some statistician who was looking at aircrafts coming back from battle during the Second World War,
Right.
and they started looking at aircrafts and they started noticing that a lot of the aircraft that were coming back had bullet marks. So during an aerial conflict, they had bullet marks towards the
Right.
tail of the aircraft, right? So
Mm-hmm.
they decided that let's start reinforcing the tail of the aircraft
Right.
because that's where most of the bullet shots from the enemy aircraft are getting hit. But the reality was that nobody looked at aircraft that never came back, right? Because aircraft that never came back, maybe the cockpit was getting hit,
True.
right? So unless you look at the real metric,
Right. And the
you will
overall
not know.
picture, right?
You will not
Yes.
know.
True.
If you're only looking at aircrafts that are coming back safely with some bullet marks, then you'll think that let me reinforce the tail, right? But if you start looking at aircrafts that went down, and where was the real bullet hit there? Because you never get to see those aircrafts, right? Because they're behind enemy lines.
True.
So
True.
and it's I always believe that every person wants to take the best possible right decision, right? Nobody wakes up in the morning thinking that I'm going to take only wrong decisions today,
True. True. True.
right? There are reasons why you take wrong decisions, right? Whether you don't um, you're not thinking deep around it, right? You don't have the aptitude, you're not using the right skills in terms of thinking. There could be multiple reasons, right? So it
So is there a particular formula or a framework, or how do you, what do you base your decisions on? I mean, is there a set pattern? Is there a set mindset? How do you go about that?
No, I think I think from a point of view that I always look at it from a customer's point of view, right?
Right.
For me, in every situation, I want to I want to think that from a customer's point of view, how will this decision look like?
Right.
Second is that purely if a bystander were to be looking at the situation, how will he look at it, right? So these are like two overarch. And the third, more important, is that don't look at the overall situation and take a decision, right? Break it into its micro components. That's nothing but first principles thinking.
True.
You cannot. There is no solution. No situation is caused by one eventuality or one metric, right? It is always a culmination of multiple matrices. There are multiple ways of solving the same situation, right? So you have to get down to first principles thinking, break it into its smaller components, and then start looking at uh, uh, what do you need to solve and what do you not need to solve, right? And what is the effect of solving a particular situation or a metric.
True. True. Absolutely. Wonderful. Great. Um, Rahul, so, let's talk about your venture now, your baby.
Right.
You are building an AI based tech startup which is into healthcare.
Right.
Healthcare is completely human.
Right.
How do you bring in or keep that symbiosis, or like
Sure.
some kind of a balance where technology doesn't swallow the humanity in healthcare?
Sure.
How is that happening? How are you
Sure.
doing that?
So let me give you like a overarching statement here, right? If you were to be asking physicians, you were to be asking common people, will healthcare change in with the advent of technology? Nobody will ever tell you that no, it is not going to change, right? It is going to change. Will doctors get replaced by technology, right? Some of it, in some pieces it might, in some pieces may not, right? Medicine and healthcare has already adopted technology. It is just that we don't perceive that to be technology. Stethoscope is a piece of technology,
True.
right? But you don't
Absolutely.
think of it as
Absolutely.
technology. X-ray is a piece of technology, but you don't think of it as a piece of technology, right? ECG machine is a piece of technology, right? But you don't think of it as a piece of technology. There are hundreds. Walk into a hospital or walk into a healthcare ecosystem. There are hundreds of pieces of technology, right? Which has brought in efficiency, which has made a lot of people redundant, right?
True.
And has
True.
given better healthcare outcomes. So healthcare has been adopting technology for thousands of years, ever since perhaps the caveman decided that he's got to treat himself or others who are around him, right? It is just that thousands of years back, when people did not know much about human physiology, they started blending healthcare with religion,
Right.
right? And with mysticism. They didn't know how did a heart function. They didn't understand circulation. They didn't understand mental illness, or how did your entire renal system function, right? So whenever people fell sick, they went to a religious person. The religious person also doubled up as a doctor, right? And that's how doctors got the same amount of
True.
respect,
True.
right?
Right.
And that's how, and over a period of time, that continued. That respect continued. Even if you look at Indian celebrated ancient physicians, right, Sushruta or whoever, they were all they were all people who were involved with religion. They also, along with religion, they also understood medicine,
Right.
and that's how it evolved. But over a period of time, as they started, as our understanding of human physiology, as our understanding of sciences, as our understanding of how people work in how the human body works, started evolving, they started adopting. And that's where we currently are. And that's an evolution which will keep happening, right? It's a very long answer to a very small question. So there is nothing new. If people talk about AI replacing human beings, no, it will. It's not that AI is going to replace human beings. In some pieces, it might. In radiology, it might. It's already happened.
Great. So, Rahul, what brought about the idea of TAP? What is the
Sure.
overall vision?
Perfect.
What do you intend to achieve?
Perfect. It's a fundamental belief that healthcare is expensive, it's not personalized, and it is not accessible because there is over reliance on human intervention in certain bits and pieces.
Right.
Right? Because most things in healthcare today is needs human intervention. Right? A lot of the low order work can be done by machines. Right? Can we look at building and developing these machines, which can take a lot of the low order work, so that physicians and healthcare professionals can do a much better job of delivering care? And as that happens, we can actually make healthcare far more personalized, far more affordable, and far more accessible.
Right.
And a lot of it can happen with the technologies available today.
Right.
Emergence of AI and generative AI is one of those pieces, right? Emergence of very good mobile computing is one of those cases, right? Can you blend all of that together and deliver a lot of the care, right? So what is specifically working at Tap Health right now is nothing but delivering AI chronic care between doctor visits.
Okay.
Right? So we felt that doctors do a great job in terms of delivering care when a patient comes to them. Right?
Right.
On average, a chronic illness patient goes to a doctor once in every 14 months. Right? They're left completely on their own between that period of 14 months, right? Between two doctor visits, right? They need
14 months, you say?
Correct. On average.
Okay.
On average, right? There are once every 14 months.
Right.
So how can actually help them manage themselves between those two doctor visits is what Tap Health works on, right? So it's AI chronic care between doctor visits. And there have been multiple platforms that have been trying to deliver that. So we have developed a autonomous digital therapeutic, which replicates a lot of the things that a human intervention driven system does currently in chronic care. We have replaced that with the autonomous system. By doing that, we have pushed the price point down by almost about 1/10 of what legacy systems or legacy products actually cost.
So in very layman terms, how is TAP going to help someone like me? Any man. Yeah, as you said, now one is somebody with a chronic condition who goes to a doctor every 14 months. How does
I'll try breaking it down, right? So one of the first products that we released or we developed was a symptom analyzer.
Okay.
Right?
A symptom analyzer.
Symptom analyzer, right? And the problem statement was that illnesses in India get late diagnosed.
Right.
Right? Not just in India, but globally, right?
Right.
So either there is fear, either there is lethargy itself, right? Or people don't take things seriously. So there are multiple reasons why people don't go to a doctor when their first symptom actually starts cropping up. Right?
It could be anything, right?
It could be anything.
Right.
So we developed a symptom analyzer, which helped people get a differential diagnosis, right? Which means that you came on the platform, you came on Tap on one of our symptom analyzer application, you narrated your symptoms, and then we asked you further questions, just like a doctor would do, and then you answered those questions, and we told you that hey, you possibly are. There is like a 80% chances of it could be illness A. About let's imagine 18% chances of it could be illness B or 2% chances of illness C. You should go out and talk to these set of doctors, these set of specializations.
That's
right.
That's wonderful.
You can go across and do that, right? So there are. So we built that, and we were doing. We were sitting at Fortis Hospital in Gurgaon about a year and a half back, and we were sitting outside the oncology Fortis Cancer Institute, right? And we're actually doing a consumer research there, right? And we told one of the patients, one of the cancer patients, he was sitting there, and we told him that why don't you use this and try this out, right? So he put in the symptoms, and we were able to detect the exact type of cancer that he had, right? And he told us that it's actually taken doctors about 2 months to detect that.
Wow.
So he had a form of oral cancer. He first went to a dentist. The dentist said that there is nothing, or I don't remember what the exact case. And then it went through this entire journey. It almost took them about 2 months to finally detect that this was a form of oral cancer.
And how long did TAP take to
About
diagnose
20
it?
questions, about 15 questions, I guess. Right. So AI is smarter, right? As in it is, as a human being, I can only process a limited
Amount of.
amount of information, right? But if it's AI, or if it's a machine, it can process enormous bits of information, right? That's the beauty of relying on machines to make decisions. Other than it, there is machines don't get tired, machines don't get fatigued, machines don't forget. Yes, they can hallucinate, right? But they don't forget. So that's one of the products that I developed. Then when we moved into chronic illness, we wanted to solve an average chronic illness patient makes about 180 decisions every day. The decisions could be in terms of what do I need to eat, what do I need to, how do I need to exercise, when should I stop my exercise, when should I not stop my exercise, when should I take my medicines, right? What are the implications of some of these medicines, managing micro side effects on those, right? They make about 180 decisions every day. This is an average diabetic makes about 180 decisions every day. What Tap Health does for a diabetic patient is that we ensure that these decisions are easy for the patient to make, which means that we help them manage their diabetes better and with much lesser effort.
Okay, Rahul. So I'm now very curious to know. You are somebody who's a management graduate. You did your MBA, and you are now running a healthcare startup. Was that born out of passion? Was that is that something that you always wanted to do?
No,
How
I
did
think
that idea come to you?
so. There are a lot of things that happen in life, and you end up grabbing those opportunities. Right? So when I stepped out of Z5, I was thinking of what should I be doing next. Somebody from so there was a fund and a venture studio that got in touch with me. So they were sitting on a thesis around medical weight loss. I joined them to build that company, the medical weight loss company. While working on that, I realized that there are much bigger problems to be solved, and I did not want to build a ops heavy um, boutique business. I always wanted to build like a large scalable internet scalable business, right? And that's where the genesis of Tap Health happened, right? And then reconnected with my current co-founder Manit, and I were colleagues at Z5.
Right.
Manit's been an entrepreneur most of his career. He's been a designer and an entrepreneur most of his career. Brilliant in terms of his design, research, understanding of consumers. So we decided that if you want to really build in healthcare, we want to design healthcare like a game, right?
Mhm.
It's not from a consumer's point of view. So we started looking at how is digital healthcare designed today? How is it? How does a digital healthcare application look like, and how are consumers using it, right? And then I found that all moment you talk about healthcare, you think of very rigid trust building systems, right? And then big logo designed in blue, right? Everybody work in blue or in green, right? That's how healthcare gets designed, right?
Right.
Then I started thinking in terms of what are the platforms or applications that are addictive. When you normally think of addiction, you think of addiction from a very negative context, right?
Right.
So the way we thought of it is that if we want to get healthcare outcomes, right, you need to build something which is like in any business. There are like 5 crucial steps for consumers, right? There is acquisition, which is nothing but a marketing problem. It's a communication problem, right? Then there is engagement.
Mhm.
How am I engaging my consumers? If you're engaging, how are they adhering to what I'm trying to tell them to do, right? If they're adhering, they would get better healthcare outcomes. If they get healthcare outcomes, they will renew, right? Or they will get retained on the
Right.
platform, right?
Right.
So we started looking at what are those platforms that are highly engaging, right? Which wherein people go in every day and they're literally addicted to it. Games were one of them, right? So the way games are designed is the games are designed to build addiction, right? And you have
Absolutely.
seen people playing Candy Crush, right? And Candy Crush is it's they've used a lot of psychology in terms of Candy Crush, right? So every time
I'm
you get
sure.
that
I'm sure.
every time you get that streak or whatever that thing drops, there's like a nice twinkling music that comes up. It tells it there's a voice that comes up and says delicious or whatever, right? So that's how we build addiction, right? Inside in a digital application. So we wanted to design healthcare with the same philosophy. How can you build great engagement, right, in healthcare? That great engagement leads to adherence. Adherence here would mean that if you're a chronic illness patient, how do I make sure that you adhere to your medicine regime? How do I make sure that you adhere to your exercise regime? How do I make sure that you're eating right? How do I make sure that you're testing your blood glucose? We're just talking about diabetes, right? That's adherence. If you adhere, then you will get the right healthcare outcomes, right? But fundamentally, you will have to think of engagement, and that's where we at least within Tap Health we think of ourselves as game developers, right? In a healthcare ecosystem, and whatever we end up developing, we want to develop it with game like philosophy, not develop it like a game, but game like philosophy. That how do I reward people, right? How do I encourage them, right? It has to be with the game like philosophy.
True, true. I think I always keep telling people, and I think I was just, thinking about it while you was talking about Tab, that, you either need to have a subject matter expertise for something that you're doing, especially when it comes to being an entrepreneur, or you need to have an, infatigable level of passion. I
Right.
think either of these are
You need to blend both of them. You need to have very strong subject matter expertise, right? There you need to have the right people to get the subject matter expertise. Healthcare is not for me, as in it is I can't start treating patients,
true,
right? I'm
true.
not a subject matter expert, right? I might be a subject matter expert in building businesses. My co-founder is a subject matter expert in building designing and building great applications, right? Digital applications and digital ecosystems, right? But you also need a very strong, highly clinically focused a physician who's able to tell you how do you bring in medicine into this, right? Or how to bring in healthcare into this, right? So it is you always need a very strong subject matter. There is subject matter expertise in everything that you do.
True. Absolutely. Absolutely, Rahul. I think that brings me to something else that's been on my mind. So, what's been the I might lose it all moment, the biggest one of them that you've faced in your life, your career so far?
It's still not come up,
Thankfully,
and
I'm
I'm
glad.
hoping it doesn't come. Um, but yes, you always have this fear, right? I'm building this. What if I'm not successful?
Right.
Right? Will it affect my personal and my professional credibility? Right? These are things that keep coming on your mind, right?
So, how do you, as a leader, as a founder, especially when people are looking at you to make decisions or to execute, right? How do you deal with doubt, either within yourself or from people around you in the room? And how do you make sure that you are able to stay on course? I mean, is it how easy or how difficult it is, especially in this sort of a journey?
I think it's decision making is a art and science by itself, right? You need to reject the first decision that comes to your mind in a situation, right?
Do you
Because
always follow this, Rahul?
I tried doing that. I try doing that. Right? Don't be impulsive in taking decisions. Right? Think through and then decide.
Right.
It's always impulse to. We always end up listening to react. Right? Our objective always is I'm listening to react, but you need to listen, or rather, you need to hear to listen.
True. True. Absolutely. Has there, or let's say, What has been a failure that you're secretly grateful for?
Good question. I've actually not thought through that.
No, if you were to tell me, I mean, you've been in some high profile corporate roles.
Yeah.
Is there, even though you've kind of left that world behind and you've moved into being an entrepreneur, is there a corporate habit you still can't shake off, that you still kind of follow instinctively?
Yeah. So I think there are a few of them, right? So I was just telling this to my team. I still wake up at about 5:15 in the morning. I still make sure that I go out for a run, right? I have my breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning. I leave,
Always.
yeah, that's right. So my breakfast at 7 o'clock. I leave for work by about 8:15. Between 8 and 8:15 is when I leave for work, and I'm normally at work by about 8:30. Right. So that's something which I try doing. It's more of corporate ethos, of turning up early for work, and it actually helps because um, when you're there a bit early, you do not have to struggle in terms of. I think you have a lot of time for yourself. You're able to think. A lot of those small little things that you had to do where you don't need interaction with people, you're able to do that. Apart from that, you also get more time to work, right? So as an entrepreneur, you are always looking at optimizing your time, right? um, and to me, optimizing on time is something which I always ask this question: that is this really worth my time, or can somebody else do it, right? uh, yes, I might be the best person to do it. I might be able to get 100% results out of that particular activity. I might be able to do a beautiful job around it. But if somebody else can do it with about 80-90% out there, then outcomes, I shouldn't be doing it. There is always a cost of I doing it
True.
or someone else doing it, right?
I think you're talking about something very important, which is delegation as a leader.
Correct,
Right?
correct. Most of us don't want to do that, right? You end up thinking that, yeah, I'm doing this. I can do this. I can do it better than that person, and I can do it faster than that person. And why should I be doing? And why should I be delegating it to them, right? But the reality is that your time is much more worthwhile if you are, if you still need to be doing what that person's job, then what the other person, somebody else can do, then you're not growing as a person.
True. True, Rahul. So you talked about a certain few habits, right? I think a lot of founders tend to work crazy hours, or that's how the hustle mindset, right?
Yeah.
How have you been able to keep your habits still sacrosanct,
Yeah.
or how do you think they help?
Hustling is a philosophy,
Right.
right? Hustling is, you will always keep hustling.
Mm-hmm.
There is no way that you'd not be hustling. You're either you're working for a corporate or you're working for anything else. It's more of a philosophy, which means that I constantly, what is hustle? I want to constantly pick up problems that exist, and I want to solve them, and I want to see progress.
Right.
That's nothing but hustle.
Right.
Right. Hustle doesn't mean that trying to trying to go out and start find. I think it's nothing but the fundamentals of problem solving, right? So to me, hustling is more of a culture that, yes, hustling, it's become a very strong corporate lingo. But the reality is there in every possible industry. There's nothing different. I think every large company was a startup at some point in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. True. True. Um, how are you able to manage that work-life balance, if you do? And I'm assuming that you
Yeah.
do. How important do you think it is, and how much of a role does it play in the overall, because there is a point of time where all of us need to switch off, right? The reason why we go to sleep, I think that's the way nature built us, that you need, irrespective of, you've got about 16-18 hours of whatever you want to do,
Yeah.
and then you need to reset, right? How do you, or how do you think that plays a role
Sure,
in
sure.
your life?
So I look at it from a point of view of having work-life harmony, not balance, right? You can never achieve balance. You can, if you're, forget being an entrepreneur, even if you're like running a medium-sized business, may not be as a CEO, but even as like a regional head, you cannot be switching off and switching on, right? Doesn't mean that Saturday and Sunday I'm not working. Your customers are still buying using your products, they're still buying your products, right? You
True.
are working. You need to be working, right? But how do you find harmony between your work and your personal life is what you need to is what you need to really decide and work on, right? So how do you get work to home and how do you get home to work? You can be constantly thinking about work, right? And then, so to me, I don't clearly believe in this thing of no emails after 6 o'clock and no emails and no meetings on Saturdays and Sundays, right? Doesn't work. And then, if you have something which is more important, go out and do that. And then I don't. That's what I tell my teams also, right? If there's something more important, let's go out and then we are go out and do that, right? But if you have free time, then let's work.
True. So, when was the last time when you completely switched off? No screens, no emails, no
It's
phones.
never happened. It's. I don't think it can. One of my former bosses we had this joke going on long time back. Baba rail mein, hai, Baba jail mein, right? Baba rail mein means Baba is
Working or
can't करने
on
जा
the
रहा है.
move.
हाँ,
Right.
can't करने जा रहा है. Baba jail mein means that Baba is no. You're not working, right? You're sleeping or whatever, right? It's like that lull period. So Baba rail mein, hai, Baba jail mein, right? I only have these two things in a day.
True. True.
It's not that I would never switch off and not be doing anything, right? Yeah.
Rahul, what would you tell an aspiring entrepreneur? I think what we started with our discussion with,
Yeah.
right? I mean, in terms of something that nobody tells you about, something that you wish somebody had told you when you started off or when you were thinking about it. What is that one thing that everyone should know when they are starting, or
Sure.
something that you need to unlearn before you start?
Yeah. Entrepreneurship is hard, right? Don't go by the glamour of entrepreneurship. Be ready for setbacks. Be ready for taking hard decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Also, be ready when to pull the plug. Right? There are and recognize that. Don't be eager to pull the plug. Don't
Mhm.
pull the plug at the first instance of failure. Right? Hustle. Be resilient, but also have this very strong thing that don't keep throwing in good money behind bad money. Right? And you need to know when do I need to pull the plug. There are a lot of things that you might think that every entrepreneur thinks that I will make this work,
Absolutely.
right? But you need to think that should I be doing this or can I do something larger? Again, goes back to the same philosophy of what is really worth your time. Is running a X $1 million business, I've scaled this business to X $1 million. Is that really worth? Or should I be doing at X $1 billion? That's completely up to you to decide. I'm not putting X could be any value,
Right. Right.
right? That's for you to decide, right? But question yourself. Question yourself: Are you doing the right thing by doing what you're doing right now, right? But start by understanding it's a long journey. You might find results, may not find results.
So, a lot of people talk about, a certain formula for success when you are as a startup founder. And I think there are lots of great books out there. And as you said, and, a lot of people read books. Is there a certain philosophy or a framework that you follow or that you followed when you
No, I
started off?
think
Or
no,
did you just create
I don't
something of
have
your own?
no, I don't have any philosophy. I just um, goes back to first principles thinking, right? Think deeper and do what's right. Don't. There are no shortcuts. There are no easy shortcuts. There is absolutely nothing called as easy shortcuts, right?
If Tap Health were to vanish tomorrow, let's hope not, but if for some reason it did, what would you want people to remember you for?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I would want people to remember me for trying to build Tap Health, right? So we are a very passionate team of people. We are about 20, maybe about 30 people right now,
Mhm.
including all our full-time employees, contractors, interns, everybody put together. Each one of them is very passionate about building that.
Rahul, a couple of more questions that before I let you go. Don't want to, but well, I know that there's all good things must come to an end. When starting, on a tech based adventure or a journey, right? What must you nail first?
I think you need to nail the consumer problem first, right? Tech or AI is a means to an end. It's not the solution by itself. Right? Solution is that you're trying to solve a consumer's problem.
Right.
Consumers' problem is not tech or AI.
Right.
Tech
Right.
or AI is an enabler to solve the problem.
True.
Right? Uh, these days, you would hear, you talk to any entrepreneur, they would tell you that we are building AI for something. Right? No, you're not building AI for something. You're actually trying to solve a customer's problem using AI. Right? AI is a means of bringing in efficiency, or it could be a means of building a much better solution than what existing solutions do. Right? So that's the fundamental difference. Right? And I always tell people that it is not, tech is an enabler. And going back to the same words, tech is an enabler. It is not the solution by itself.
True. True. Got it. So you're saying that, I mean, it's very important to understand the consumer, the problem that the consumers have.
Absolutely. So your problem, your solution to that problem should be solvable even without tech. Tech is only an efficiency layer that you're trying to build on top.
Right. 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 True. Very true. Um, I think now this one is possibly a little cliched, but again, I let me still go ahead and ask it. I mean, entrepreneurship is a lonely journey.
Right.
Is when is the time that you felt this the most?
It's not a lonely journey if you have a great co-founder. Right. So find a co-founder with whom you want to build. Otherwise, it's going to be a lonely journey. You'll find it very difficult to build. You will find it very difficult to share. So you need to have a co-founder with whom you'd love building. Right? I've found one with whom I love building. We've got complementing skills. We don't have overlapping skills. Both our skills are very complementing. And he's a great builder. And I love building with him.
So Rahul, I think maybe we should also talk about it for a minute more. There are lots of, I mean, when I started, right, it's not always easy to find a co-founder.
Right.
Is there a, how would you advise maybe somebody, a young
Sure.
techpreneur or an entrepreneur, who's trying to find one? Because I know, I mean,
Sure.
when you have a shared interests or another set of brains working alongside you, things become easier because you've
Sure.
got somebody equal who's complementing you and somebody who's you've got to spar with.
If you're not been able to sell your idea to one person of the 7 billion people who exist on this planet, right? Then you can't sell your idea to investors or to your customers.
Sure.
You would have to find that one person out of the 7 billion people who believes in your vision and who wants to work with you to execute that vision. Right? And that's a way that I would look at it. Right. So you,
right. I think that's it's a beautiful way of looking at it.
It's not about you may not find that person within your network. You may not have gone to school with that person. Right. You may not have that the person may not be your partner or a brother or whoever. Right. But you need to go out and find that person. And that's like the first barrier of entrepreneurship. Right. You need to find that right person to work with.
So how many people did you pitch your idea to before you found your?
Well, I think Manit. When I pitched this to Manit, the fun story behind that I don't know if I've spoken about this to anyone. I've spoken about this to a few people. I had this idea of starting off with Tap Health, and then connected with Manit. Manit and I met at this was around I think first or second week of October 2023. We connected over call. We did a video call, and Manit told me that he's going to be in Delhi to meet his sister who was flying in. His parents live in Delhi. Manit used to live in Bangalore at that point in time. His sister was flying in, so he wanted to meet his sister, surprise his sister. So he was coming to Delhi, and he told me that when I'm coming to Delhi, let's meet up. And we didn't have the exact Tap Health idea. So we met at Starbucks at Southex, and Manit was kicked about the idea. He decided not to go back to Bangalore.
Okay.
Right, and Manit had come to Delhi with about 5 T-shirts.
Okay.
This was October, November, December. Come winters, he didn't have any warm clothing. I think he bought his first sweater around middle of December. So he didn't go back to Bangalore till about February or March.
Wow. Okay. Great. That must have been.
That's dedication, right? So he was kicked and sold with this idea, and he really wanted to come invest his time and build this.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Great. I think so. It's important for all those listening. I think it's important to find the right co-founder. I think it's and it actually does make a lot of
It's a
sense.
10-year journey. You need to find the right co-founder with whom you want to build over the next 10 years.
True. Absolutely, absolutely. That's as good as gospel,
Correct. Correct.
Rahul. All right. Coming towards the end now. What's Rahul's one-liner about purpose, resilience, and leadership?
I'll just sum it up with one word, right? Do it now. Whatever can wait till tomorrow to be done, do it today,
True.
right?
True.
You do it today, you're solving about 30-40% of your problems, and you're
Okay.
faster in terms of execution, right?
Right. Right.
Build faster, execute faster, keep experimenting, keep making mistakes, and do it today.
Absolutely. Great. Wonderful. So, Rahul, I think the last one is, how do you keep the element of empathy in AI driven product design? Is that even possible?
No, it is. It's definitely possible. AI is getting smarter, significantly smarter. It's stopping. It's. It depends. The way the foundations of Gen AI, generative AI are. It is as good as what you want it to be, right? The models are getting smarter. The models where they will keep getting much smarter. You will have to build guardrails in terms of what do you want it to do, right? And how and where do you want the AI task to end, right?
Right.
So over the next few years, I'm sure all of us would have seen. I don't know if most people would remember when for the first time ChatGPT came in
Right.
to what it is today, right? With today you have models like the 5.0, which have now come in. It's the ChatGPT 5.0, right? They're significantly better, and they are miles away from where all of this started off, right?
True.
And that again is what I call as evolution. It will keep improving. It will keep getting better. It will keep getting as close as human responses as possible. But it will still be generative AI, right? It will still have. It you may not be able to replicate human emotions or empathy, but it will get very close to it over a period of time,
True.
right?
Absolutely. I think Rahul, absolutely last one is, personally, I think I'm both absolutely fascinated and immensely terrified by the rise of AI. I think I
Sure.
remember as a child I used to, the I think I'm an 80s kid, right? So watching those movies like Terminator
Correct.
and
Correct.
Rise of the Machines and all of
Yeah.
that, and I used to actually think back then, is this even a world that is possible? If it were, what would it be like? Now
Sure.
there are a lot of people who are both excited as well as concerned about how AI is kind of developing really fast, and obviously it's
Yeah.
artificial intelligence. It's intelligence on its own. What's your take on that? I think, considering you are the founder of an AI driven tech startup,
Sure.
how do you look at it, and how do you see the next few years playing out?
Sure. So let's go back a few years. So people's understanding of AI is completely changed, right? So you are absolutely right in terms of saying that when perhaps in the 80s or even in the 60s, when people thought of AI and they thought of machines, they thought of humanoid machines, not humanoid, but they thought of robots which will come and serve tea or coffee at home and do some mundane chores. Right? That's how they thought of
Right. Right.
AI, right? And then in the 80s, it moved towards Terminator, right? And that's a perception that people had, right? These are humanoids. And then in the 90s, you had robots working in plants and in factories, right,
Right.
which are producing absolutely great results and doing a lot of the manufacturing work, right? These were AI robots that were working. So people's perception was that. And then towards the 2000s and 2010s, you knew that AI exists. It exists in a watch, it exists in a television, it exists in a washing machine, but you couldn't see it or you couldn't perceive it. You knew that it's making life easy for you. And then came this entire era of 2022 when people actually saw ChatGPT at work. That's where they suddenly thought that AI is generative AI. it's, oh, this is wonderful, this is what it can do for me. The reality is that AI has gone way beyond what you saw way back in 2020,
True.
22,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
It's getting into everything that we do today, right? There's AI generated content that's coming up. There's AI generated voice morphing that's coming up, right? There are AI generated calls that are coming in, right? So you will have um, synthetic decision making, synthetic avatars, synthetic voice that will come up. That's just one spectrum of decisions. You'll have more complex ones getting into interpreting and accounting. There'll be more complex ones coming up. Then you have agentic AI, which can do a lot of the tasks that you're doing. So there will be different forms of AI that will keep coming up. Agentic AI as an architecture itself must be about 8-9 months old right now.
Mhm.
But a lot of startups are now coming up developing very deep agentic AI for certain specific tasks that they need to solve. It could be in accounting, it could be in going out and generating leads. It could be in so many different things that you're talking about. Closing, collect. It could be in so many different areas, right? And we normally think of consumer use cases, but there are so many enterprise use cases that exist. So AI will exist in different shapes and forms, uh, very distinct from the 1960s, 70s, 80s perception of AI that we had.
So you personally, are you more excited about it, or are you also is there also a tinge of uh, I don't know what's the word.
Will AI take over the world? Will there be like one mad scientist who writes a line of code where AI develops emotions of its own and it starts making decisions of its own and it wants to rule the world? Might happen, may not happen, right?
So you're not ruling out the
I'm
possibility
not ruling out
entirely.
the possibilities, right? Might happen, may not happen, and not. I'm sure none of us want it to happen, but it can happen also, right? Perhaps in the next 50, 60 years, it might even happen. I don't know, right? There might be, uh, but then just because that's going to happen, you can't stop progress from happening, right? It's important that humankind progresses, and AI is a means. It's the next logical step. The first time when human beings invented weapons made out of obsidian, I'm sure the same question would have come up, right? When they invented the wheel, the same question would have come up, right? Why should we have the wheel? Why is it make it's more efficient? Let's just drag things or carry things on our shoulders.
True.
But that's evolution. So it will. Humankind will keep evolving. You will have to accept it. Yes, there are a lot of things that'll go right, they'll go wrong because of that. But you will have to keep evolving. When um, as physics and chemistry started advancing, there were good things that happened out of it. You also ended up discovering and inventing weapons of mass destruction out of it, right? But that didn't stop science from progressing.
True. Absolutely.
Right? Both physics, chemistry, from progressing, right?
True. Absolutely. Absolutely. Wonderful. Rahul, I can't thank you enough for sharing all these insights. I'm really hoping and I'm sure that, everyone listening in, everyone tuning in will find something to take away, especially those who are about to begin their entrepreneurial journey or
Yeah.
those who are early in their entrepreneurial journeys. And even for a lot of other leaders, I think, in terms of the, some of the key things that you spoke about, I think are going to be of great value, of great learning. I deeply thank you for taking out time to come here, be here with me today, and spending this time. Thank you so much. I wish you and Tap Health all the very best. Personally, looking forward to using it
Sure.
at some point. Hopefully, not too not too soon, but
Yeah.
yes, I mean with how
Hopefully, you
things are
shouldn't be
going.
using it. That's how you should
Yes.
be saying.
Right, right. But yes, nevertheless, all my good wishes and all my, best wishes to you and the entire team of TAP to, take this journey forward and, do something really, really revolutionary, something that actually becomes a movement. Thank you, Rahul. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here. And from me at, Real Versus with Saugat, thanks again.
Likewise. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for having me here.
Same.
Right.
Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rahul.